Hello, everyone, and welcome to Think Tank Television. I'm your host, Erin Johnson, and today we have with us Kathleen Evans and Diane Lane, who are both local authors, and I'm very happy they're here because they're going to talk with us today about writing and authorship. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Okay, so can we just start about what it's like to be an author? Have you written any books recently? I think you both have, right?
Yes, I just finished one and it came out last week.
Okay. So what's it been like? I mean, in terms of COVID, has it been different to try to write books, or is it more fun because you're home more often? What's that been like?
I'll let Diane take this one first because she's the one that has actually completed her second.
Okay.
I thought it was much easier because I had a lot of time on my hands.
Oh, that's
my
good.
My first one, I was working and trying to, write at the same time. But this time I just concentrated on this book. So it was
good for
easier.
you. I had a much harder time. I feel like when I'm busy, I tend to make the time to write. And when I have all the time in the world, I find it much more difficult to assign time. And so I think I fell into that creative rut of I had too much time on my hands and I wasn't able to parcel it out. So I did some writing, but not as much as you did, Diane. So hats off to you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention we're all in our writing group too, or Kathleen's writing group. It's called the Whitman Writers Block. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I can write more because I'm in that group writing with other people. How do you feel about that?
I would agree. I don't know about you, Diane, but I just think I teach and I got very jealous that kids had clubs and we didn't. So I thought it would be fun to start one. And I think we haven't had one in over a year because we didn't have any during COVID, but it's much easier for me to write when I'm talking to people about it because it gets you excited to write. You remember why you're excited and it kind of inspires you to keep going. So we need to start those up again soon.
Yeah, yes, definitely. I enjoyed them. I enjoyed going. It was someplace to go and being around people that like to do the same thing that I do. I really enjoyed it.
So did either of you bring your books with you? Kathleen, can I talk to you first? Did you bring your book with you?
Oh, sure. My dog's just barking. I'm going to put her out of the room.
Okay. Okay, Diane, you brought your book too, didn't you?
Well, I don't have the physical book yet, but I have a picture of it.
That's the cover. Okay.
That's the cover.
Okay.
And
what's the title? I can't see the title right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. It says Looking for the Silver Lining.
Okay.
And I put it under not my married name, but I put it under my maiden name because it'll just disappear, my maiden name, because there's no boys anywhere. So I thought I'll do this for my parents.
Oh, okay.
And,
so is that your
story is about?
Okay. Is that your first book?
Nope, this is my second book, the one that I just finished, and it came out last week.
Okay. Do you want to tell us about your first one too?
Okay, that was called 7 Years. Wait a minute, let me get it.
I think it was 7 years later. Oh, so I apologize. I feel like that's the hazard of Zoom. I'm so sorry.
I should have told her I was going to do that. I read it too. I can't remember.
Oh no, I meant my dog barging in. I can never remember things either. Hers was called 7 Years Later. I loved it. It was very salacious.
A Lifetime in 7 Years.
A Lifetime in 7 Years.
Yeah. Okay. I read it too. Yeah, very good book. And so Kathleen, did you want to show us the cover of yours or talk about it a little bit?
Oh yeah, sure. Mine's called The Language of Everything. The cover, so Diane and I both use the same company called LifeRich, which is a self-publishing company, but it kind of walks you through the process. And you can either opt for them to create your own cover, which I think you did, Diane, right?
Yes, yes. I gave them some ideas, and that's what they had come up with. I didn't use the same publishing house for this one, though.
Oh, you didn't? Which one did you use for this one?
It's called Authors, let's see, Authors Tranquility Press. It's
Cool.
out of Georgia.
Nice.
I went with them because this one, I didn't have it professionally edited, and I should have. And I didn't have it marketed, which I should have. So I paid for the extra for this one, and it was a better price for the Tranquility Press. So that's why I changed.
That's great.
Yeah.
I was able to design my cover, which was cool. I just used this thing called Canva online. It's a free design program that lets you, I don't know, create content.
Yep,
But,
yep. It's a nice cover.
whereas Diane's is more realistic fiction, mine is fantasy. But I have had so much fun reading your stuff, Diane. I can't wait to read the second one.
Oh, good. I'm glad. But the first one was so many, and then I thought you were a teacher, and I thought, oh my God, she's gonna see all those mistakes.
We'd never
think
judge
you
for
know
spelling
them,
mistakes.
But when you haven't been in school for 50 years, it's like, you think you know, but you don't. That's why this time I had it professionally edited, so hopefully it'll be better.
I was wondering, how long have you, I know I certainly have tried throughout my life to become a published author, sorry. How long have you been working at this art in hopes of becoming a published author? I guess what I mean is, how long ago did you publish your first book, and how long have you been trying to?
Diane, do you want to go first?
Okay, I published the first one in 2019. And this one I started last July 2020. Okay. And I just finished it, I don't know, a couple of months ago. So I'm excited about this second one. It's a mystery plus a romance, but it's completely different than the other one. Cool. I'm afraid I got some flack from my family on that one, so they were a little embarrassed. So
did you want to say something, Kathleen?
Oh no, I was just going to answer the same question as Diane. I published mine last year, but like I said before, I was not writing as much as I should have during quarantine, but it did give me the time I needed to publish. So that was great. So I published this last year, and then I have been writing. I'm writing a historical fiction right now, which is very different from the book that I
love historical fiction.
I read one called The Other Einstein, which takes the wife of Albert Einstein and expands upon her life, takes facts and then adds some fiction to it, makes up some things about her personality. And it was super empowering, and I thought it was really cool. So I picked a character that I thought I could put a spin on, and I'm kind of doing something in the same vein. But like I said, I have not been as inspired as I should be, so I have to light a fire.
Okay.
So what is yours about?
So I took there's a woman called Nellie Bly. She was the first, the first investigative journalist, and she has apart from her stories, which are obviously really famous, she just has a very cool personal life. And I thought it was interesting to just to take a real person and to assume some things about their character that didn't get written down. So I'm writing about her. I think it'll be neat.
Oh yeah, I thought she was a fascinating person too. Yeah. So so it's interesting. You kind of answered my next question, which is that it sounds like both of you like to write in more than one genre, but is there one that you really prefer? Diane?
Probably romance, but this new one has a mystery to it. And I'm hoping that I can steer people to different directions so you can't guess. There's probably been 4 family members that have read it, and they couldn't tell, and they said it was a page turner, so I'm hoping.
That's good. How about you, Kathleen? Do you have a favorite of the?
I don't think to write. I love writing all sorts of different things, particularly in our little group. We were doing a lot of short stories, and I love to mix genres with my short stories. I definitely like to read specific genres more. I'm definitely more of a fantasy reader, but I've read a lot of good nonfiction and realistic fiction lately. So I don't know. I'm all over the place these days. I'll take it all in.
I have a little question. I'm sure you know the answer. I just thought people might be interested in this. How long is a book supposed to be in terms of in terms of words or pages, if it's a novel as opposed to a novella, as opposed to a novelette?
I was told 67,000 was a good amount of words to have for a novel.
For a novel, okay. And
yeah, I've Googled this extensively because I'm always so nervous that I'm not writing enough or I'm writing too much. And a lot of it depends on the genre and on the age group that you're going for. So like middle grade is for middle schoolers, like not quite high school yet. And that's going to be like 50,000. And then once you get to YA, it's more like 60 to 80. And then once you get to the like adult novels, it can be more than that, but never more than like, I think it was like 120,000 words, or like the really like in-depth fantasy novels, like the George R.R. Martin stuff. But some people break the rules. Like Harry Potter is way longer than any of that. And so there isn't like a right amount, but they definitely have numbers that are more likely to get published because they fit the like mold for the genre, which I thought was so interesting. It's all numbers and marketing, which is really cool.
My first book was 220 pages. And this second book is 308.
Nice.
So, and I'm already started a sequel on it.
Of course
Got
you
2
are.
chapters. Because I love the characters so much in this new one.
That's wonderful to fall so in love with your characters that you just have to tell more of their story.
Yep.
And one thing that's interesting is if you do publish on Kindle under KDP, you can listen, if you have Alexa, you can listen to the, it will read it to you. So that's kind of nice. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's interesting. We'll have to talk about that more later on, because I'd like to figure out how to do it.
Okay. Yeah.
That's just good information for anyone, I feel like, especially people who love to listen to their books, but they don't want to pay for a subscription like Audible. That's really cool information. That's neat.
Wow. Can anybody that bought the book do that? Or is it just...
No, if it's a Kindle book, yes.
If they have a Kindle, they can do it.
And it was published on Amazon, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they obviously, if they purchase the ebook, not if they purchase the paperback.
Right, the ebook. Yep.
Okay. So I was just wondering, how long does it take to write a book? I mean, do you start with an inspiration or an idea, or is it just you already know what you're going to do?
What about you, Diane?
Okay. For me, I'm unconventional. I wake up in the middle of the night with an ending. I start with an ending, then go to the middle, and then go to the beginning. I don't know why, but I do. It works for me. But
okay.
So I don't know. I definitely, for this first book, I had written an ending, but I ended up changing it. I'm much more of a like go with the flow and kind of write, but I also needed to piece it out. So I'm someone that really needs to lay out where the action's going to be so that things don't get too slow, and little phrases that I really want to get in there and just remind myself. So I needed to lay it out a lot more, just because I'll get scatterbrained and write and then nothing will make sense. But it took me a little while, probably. So I can't believe when Diane just said it took her a year and she like banged out the book. Mine was much more like 2. And even then it was off and on. And I actually think that Diane's way is a little bit better. And I'm sure like whatever works for everybody else, but you know that your thoughts are going to be cohesive and you know that your writing is going to be really similar. In my book, you can definitely tell that there were things at the beginning of the book that were written way before the other stuff, just because the style changed slightly. And so I would definitely recommend writing as much as you can in a year period, because then you know that it's all going to make sense together.
Now, I bought your book. I haven't read it yet. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We've talked about the genres. Fantasy's not your thing. It's okay.
No, that isn't it. There's a love story involved in that. I was kind of skimming through, so I will get to it. And then, Erin, you wrote a short. Well, is it a novella or I got that
It's
too.
short. It's
I
only
haven't
about
read it
100.
yet.
It's only about 140 pages, and I'm going to probably update it because it has more mistakes in it than I thought it had, which brings me to another question. Do you
Yep.
think everyone should have an editor, or do you think people can go ahead and try to do it without one?
I think you need an editor.
Everybody needs an editor.
Yeah.
I teach English, and there's absolutely no way that I could have written a book without an editor. And you can find them out there really easily. Some companies will offer an editing package, but I will say the
And
one
it's
that
expensive.
it
About
is
$1,000.
But there are independent editors out there that if you like really look to price it out are manageable. I found somebody online who had a good portfolio and had good recommendations and was also within my price range. And so it takes a little digging, but you can always find somebody. And I think it's really worth it because you can read your own stuff a million times. And
Exactly. Your mind knows what it's supposed to say, but when you read it, it just, you skip over things.
Mm-hmm.
And I never had that Word, Microsoft Word, which I have now. Oh my God, I don't know how I even survived without it. I mean, it's a godsend. It tells me, comma really doesn't belong there, or a comma should go there. But I also went back online and I learned about the M dash, and I learned about putting things in italics, and I learned about semicolons and when to use a comma and when not to use a comma. So when I sent my manuscript to the editor, it was cleaner than, say, the last one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so embarrassed about the last one.
Don't be at all.
It was I thought it was a good story, but
it was a great story.
oh, thank you so much.
So do either of you find that you need to do a lot of research in order to write a book, or does it, I think I might have already asked you that, but do you feel, it's mostly from creativity, or do you feel a lot of it's from what you've read in other books and research you've done?
I think for me, it depends on the genre again. So for my
Exactly.
first book, it was a fantasy novel. So there wasn't really a lot of research needed. Every once in a while, I would Google, like, in medieval times, what kind of wood did people use to build their houses?
Right.
But for the most part, it was coming from my imagination. But with this historical fiction text, I've done a ton of research on Nellie and her life and how many siblings she had and like the type of people she interacted with on a daily basis, just because some of it needs to be, most of it needs to be historically accurate apart from the stuff I'm adding in. Would you agree, Diane? Is that what you said?
Yes. Well, my first one, I really didn't do much research. It just came from a comment someone made about the older people, the older generation, and I wanted to prove them wrong. So I wrote that book. And this book here, I had to do some research because it's a story of an 18-year-old girl going to America from England. And so I had to make sure that things like that were correct. And then I started 6 chapters into another book. It's called, well, it really doesn't have a title. It's it's about a 13-year-old psychotic child. So there's a lot of, and she has to go to a therapist. So I have to learn a lot. So I put that aside and wrote Looking for the Silver Lining instead. So, because the other ones requires more work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now it sounds like all three of us have had the experience of independent authorship, where we actually we write it, we either have somebody else edit it, and then we pretty much own the rights to it. And I certainly haven't I've contacted other publishers, but been rejected. Have you ever contacted non-independent publishers to see what they would do with your work?
Diane, you go first.
Well, no, traditionally, you have to find a literary agent first.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're, they only give you 1 page to convince them to take your novel. So if it doesn't grab them, or if it's different, they might look at it further and then request your manuscript. But if it's like every other book out there, they're not going to even look at it. And, you know, they get paid when you get accepted by the publishing house, a traditional publishing house. And that's how that works. That's what I'm understanding anyway. But it's very, very difficult, and it could take years to get accepted. So this is why I went self-publishing, because I'm impatient and I wanted to see my book and my name on it. So
I agree. I mean, sometimes, I mean, do you feel sometimes like there's a message or a story you want to get out there and, you know, go ahead and try for an independent publishing? Because even if you, I mean, I don't mean to talk so much, but even if you publish through a publishing house, you don't know if a lot of people are going to read that book. So that's,
I know.
yeah.
That's the problem. There's so many books out there. My husband and I went to Barnes and Noble, and I just looked around and I said to my husband, I don't have a chance in blazes. Really.
But
It's
one of the
money.
cool things, but one of the cool things is that even if, so like Diane was saying, usually you get a literary agent first, because a lot of major publishing companies, and even a lot of the minor ones now, just because there are so many people writing, won't look at your stuff unless an agent has okayed it first. Right. And there's a lot of like not businesses, but like websites out there that will help you like keep track of it and see who you've applied to. And let me tell you, I got so many rejections, but it really didn't bother me too much because I liked writing. Like, you know, as long as you're in it for the fun of writing, then there are so many other things out there that'll help you publish independently. I remember getting one, like halfway through, one agent requested more, and it was like, I was freaking so out. And like literally all she did was say, "Oh, that looks nice. Could I see more of it?" And I was like, "It's happening." And she ended up rejecting me. But it's a wild ride. And like Erin said, it's worth it to try. And if you can't, there's so many ways to publish. And there's a lot of independent booksellers around here that if you go around and ask them like, "Hey, can you carry my book?" They'll still put it in there and you can see your book on a shelf, even if it's not in Barnes and Noble. I definitely, like, anyone who's discouraged by it, I always try to just kind of point them in a different direction, because there's a lot of really fun things that can come from it. It's
marketing, which is the next hardest thing. Yeah. That's what I find. I mean, I did one book signing in Whitman at the library. Mm-hmm. We had 17 people there, and 15 of them my friends and relatives. And they had already read the book. There's probably 3 people I didn't know, but I sold 4 books.
Good for you.
But to answer your question, Erin, there's a lot of rejection, but it's like, you just got to keep pushing through, you know, it's all good.
At least you heard from some. I never heard back.
One person.
I never heard back at all. I said, oh.
Yeah, so I think you kind of answered my next question too. What is the best advice you think you could give somebody who, you know, may just have a story that they want to tell or just want to get into the writing profession? Diane.
I think just write. The editor that I hired gave me some advice too. So when I submitted it, she was like, "This is a nice book. I liked it. It flowed." She told me, she was like, "I don't think it's going to get published because you mix genres too much." But she was like, "But you enjoyed writing it, and that's all that matters." And so just keep writing things that you enjoy. And then sometimes someone else is going to enjoy it too. You know, if you keep writing, someone's going to like it enough one day. You just got to keep going.
You do. You do. And it's fun. And if you really like it, then keep it up. I mean, I like to write. I like to make up stories. I always have since I was 12 or 13 years old. So you just keep moving on and hope for the best.
Okay. Would you like to tell us one more time where we can find your book so we can purchase it if we want to, Diane?
It's in Barnes and Noble. It's on Target's online, Walmart, Amazon, Kindle, and it's called Looking for the Silver Lining by D.M. Bagasho. It's a Russian name. And it's a story of love, loss, betrayal, innocence, deceit, intrigue, and mystery. And it has you wondering what is coming next at every turn. It's an easy read, but it's riveting. And I wrote this little thing: hold Mackenzie's hand while she takes her journey through tragedy and secrets as she searches for her silver lining. And will she find it?
Thank you. Kathleen, do you want to tell us how do you get your books?
Yeah, mine can be found on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and then the Life Rich Publishing page.
Yes, also, yeah.
And it's called The Language of Everything. It's a fantasy book, and it deals with a lot of topics from our life, just mixed in with some fantasy themes. But there is a little bit of romance, nothing crazy. It's a YA book for sure. The kids are teenagers, but I really loved writing
For
it.
anyone who doesn't know what YA is, what is that?
Oh, sure. It's young adult. So it means that however old your characters are usually the age group that it falls into. So if your characters are adults, it's going to be an adult book. If your characters are younger, like middle schoolers, it'll be a middle grade. Mine's a YA because the kids are teenagers.
Well, this book spans like 25 years. So it's from an 18-year-old up to she's probably 49 or 50.
Yeah, so that's definitely an adult, which is fun, especially when you see them grow like that. I can't wait to read it, Diane.
I'm so glad. Make me feel good. And
Okay.
I'm going to get to yours. I am.
We're getting ready to wrap up now. Is there anything either of you would like everyone else to know about your books or about writing or anything, Kathleen?
Oh, no, I think we've covered everything. But I would just say, like you said, if anyone's listening to this and is like, oh, I love writing, just write. I think one of the hardest things to do is to start, because it can be pretty daunting, especially when you see all of the parts of the process. But Erin, you actually did a really good show a couple months back about the process of writing. And so anyone else should check out that Think Tank episode because we kind of walked through it.
I didn't know about that one. But I would say just if you do write, you can self-publish. That's fine, but make sure you have it edited and you have somebody help you market it because it's a lot of work.
Okay. Well, like I said, we're about done. So I just wanted to say thank you very much, Kathleen Evans, and thank you, Diane Lane, for being here with us today. And thank you so much, our viewers.
Thank you for having us. This was fun.
Thanks, Erin. This was so fun.
We got to start up our group again.
Okay. And I just want to say thank you to our viewers in Whitman and Hanson. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.